Hey, it's you, man, from KC95 here. Good evening and welcome to Toasted Tavern. Your host, Scott Tobin, and the man called Wags are ready to bring you the night in sports. So pull up a stool, grab a drink, and let's get toasted.
Good evening, and what a way for us to start the return of the Toasted Tavern. We're in the midst of the Major League Baseball Home Run Derby, and we thought we'd be coming on here as Scott and Wags joining you, talking about, Albert's last attempt at the Home Run Derby and how he did in the first round exit that he had. But would you know it, Kyle Schwarber through the first round, and Albert is advanced and is getting ready to come up against Juan Soto, who a lot of people want as a next Cardinal great, which we'll talk about in just a little bit. But Scott, I don't think anybody really expected Albert to advance out of the first round, but it's also one of those moments that you look at and you go, maybe it was a bit expected. And I think you put down a little bit of hope in Albert. I'll put it this way with your MLB Home Run Derby pick.
Yeah, I picked him. I think you're right. I don't know that anybody expected him to do it. But at the same time, I think we should have learned a long time ago that you never, ever doubt Albert Pujols. So we'll see. I mean, the fact that he at least made it to the second round and, it's in L.A. and it's his last go-round, after all those years, I'm sure he's wanting to show everybody out there that he's still got a little left as well. So we'll see what he does in this second round. But it's good to see him out there and being honored, and it's just cool that he's even at the All-Star game at all.
Yeah, it's the first time that the commissioner's been able to make the legacy picks, which he did for him and Miguel Cabrera. Obviously, both guys kind of wrapping up their careers, guys that really deserve a little bit of recognition at the end of their careers. So it was very cool to see that happen, and these guys are both there. The fact that Albert's in the Home Run Derby, too, is a little bit of a unique perspective as well, because you would have thought maybe Miggy Cabrera could go in there as well, have both the legacy players in it. But it was just a matter of, hey, we're going to get him in. And after his first round, he started off slow, 1 home run in the first minute, took a timeout, earliest timeout taken in this derby so far. Then he came out and knocked 12 in the next 2.5, or the next 2 minutes, essentially, to get to the 13. Everybody thinking, okay, well, all good. He showed up. And then before his bonus time, he kind of comes over, and every All-Star comes over to Albert Pujols and just does a bit of a congratulation, just a wonderment of his career. And it was before his 30-second bonus time too. So he was kind of like, okay, gets out there, finishes up. He's at 13, goes to sit down, and Kyle Schwarber comes up, and Schwarber struggles a little bit. I don't know if it was maybe the mindset of like, do I really want to go out there and beat him? Like, this is a storybook potential ending. Can I do this? And he comes out there and he hits 13 home runs and ends up having to go to a swing off with Albert. And I posted on Twitter after Schwarber ends up with 13, and you got a shot of Albert, and he kind of had that look like, oh, do I have to go back up there again? I thought this was going to be it. Then he promptly goes up and hits 7 home runs in the minute that he's given and beats Schwarber by 20-19 to move into the second round. And you almost feel like maybe a little bit of the pressure was off of him going into that swing off, and now going into the second round, maybe he's a little bit looser and can go out there. Maybe he can go out there and beat a guy like Juan Soto. I don't think it's going to happen. We're getting ready to see it play out in live front of our eyes here. But what do you expect going forward here in this second round matchup against Soto?
Well, like you said, I think all the pressure's off Albert because nobody expected him to be there. So I think he's probably just out there having fun. There actually might be a little bit of pressure on Soto trying to really show off. We know, like you said, we'll talk about him a little bit more in a minute, but he's really trying to make an impression to the national audience right now. So it'll be interesting to see how this second round goes for sure.
And Julio Rodriguez just took out Pete Alonso, the 2-time champion, in the other semifinal matchup, hitting 31 home runs. He's the first player to hit multiple 30 home run in a round in the Home Run Derby as Albert comes up and takes his first swing. He actually switched bats during that timeout. He was using a heavier bat in his first round, switched to a lighter bat, and things seemed to turn around at that point for Albert as he's up there with the giant smile on his face still. He still feels like he's the 20-year-old rookie out there just going out, having fun, just showing off and having a good time as he launches his first one of the second round out there. And it looks like he may have gone back-to-back. But you're looking at this and you're just going, man, it's great to see Albert out there, as you talked a little bit before about him just being at the All-Star game. And maybe it's a big psyche thing for him in the second half of the season as well. He struggled a little bit in the first half. He hit a couple home runs, but he didn't have a whole lot of opportunities. You think maybe a home run derby, which in a lot of past instances has maybe put a negative mark on a player after into the second half. You think maybe it could be a bit of a positive for Albert going forward?
I think he's just going to be motivated, knowing this the stretch run, the end of his career. I think he's going to have a big second half anyway, just because he's going to try to show and try to get this team to the postseason. So I think he will be motivated, and I think you'll see him put up some pretty decent numbers in the second half.
And he takes his time out as he has 6 home runs here in this second round. And, he got a little hot at the end of the first round into that bonus time as well. He's going to have to put up a couple more for sure against Soto, because Soto, he just looks smooth in his first round matchup as well. And he's a young guy. And Rodney, we are going to be talking about Juan Soto and potentially the Cardinals dealing for him among other teams. It kind of came out that it seems like he is going to be traded. There is no doubt in baseball pundits' minds that Juan Soto is going to be traded before the deadline this year. Who it is definitely up for debate. Obviously, the pundits have put the Cardinals as one of the top teams available to trade for him. But, as we continue to see Albert here in this home run derby, I just want to get your thoughts on, A, what it would take from the Cardinals to bring in a Juan Soto, and B, why they would if that does end up happening.
I mean, he's super talented. There's no question about that. And he's young. He's only 23 years old. So you would have that young talent. It would be kind of like when Albert came up, having that young superstar that the Cardinals haven't really had to this point since Albert, really. I mean, they're, just that has the national attention. So that would be big. We talked about this a little bit off air, and we've talked about it for the last couple of days. I know a lot of people are excited and want Juan Soto in St. Louis. I'm not on the Juan Soto to the Cardinals bandwagon. That's just my personal thoughts. How do you feel about it?
I mean, I think there's a lot of other pieces that the Cardinals probably need to look at as far as, pitching for sure. And not necessarily a bench bat, but maybe a bench bat as well. Somebody that can really be consistent off that bench. And we talked a little bit about the fact that this is one guy. And regardless of if you're going to end up re-signing him to a contract extension or not, this team has had a propensity for not really going after the one guy. And yes, you're going to sit there and say, oh, well, Nolan Arenado was one guy. Paul Goldschmidt was one guy. But they were all guys that you could get at a reasonable price. The price tag obviously is a bit higher, but it never really broke the bank for the Cardinals as far as, being the one guy that you can sign and then nobody else. The fact that they went out and got Goldschmidt and signed him, the fact that they went out and got Arenado and were able to extend him as well, it allowed them to have multiple guys here. If you bring in a guy like Juan Soto, it could be the one guy. And we saw it, and you mentioned it as Pujols, exactly the same way. When Pujols won his contract, when he ended up going to the Angels, the Cardinals were like, no, it's one guy. Look what it turned into. They were able to sign multiple guys to kind of fill positions. They were able to still stay competitive, win, go to the World Series, all those sorts of things because they didn't acquiesce to one guy. And that's not to say that Albert Pujols was a guy that was demanding to be the guy. Soto is kind of like that in a sense where it feels like he is out there to get the biggest dollar amount possible. Turned down $440 million over 15 years. You're essentially sacrificing a generation of baseball to re-sign this guy, not just from the guys that you trade, but from the contract extension he's going to have to sign if you want to keep him. And that's the piece that it really comes down to is, what are you willing to give up for 2 years of Juan Soto? What are you willing to give up for potentially 15 years of Juan Soto? And I don't know if the Cardinals want to answer that question on either side. I don't think they want to ask what it would take for 15 years. I don't think they want to answer what it would take for 2 years. I don't see them going out there and making that move. And Rodney says if you want to win a World Series, you have to go get Soto. If you want to win a World Series, you got to have pitching. Okay? You got to have starters and relievers who are able to get things done. Yes, you need offense as well. And I think Juan Soto can do a lot to help this team win. But it's one guy. And baseball is a team sport. And right now, this team has a good bit of chemistry offensively. Yes, some of the guys aren't hitting on all cylinders in a sense, but if you get the guys go, I mean, Goldschmidt's MVP conversation. Nolan Arenado's having a great year this year. You've got Nolan Gorman, who's come up, and yeah, he's been up and down a little bit, but he's shown a propensity for doing well. Tyler O'Neill just came back from the disabled list. Harrison Bader, that's going to be a big question mark, but Dylan Carlson has stepped up as well. So it just comes down to, can you trade the right guys to bring in a Juan Soto to fit the team that's here? Or are you going to have to give up too much? And I think they'd have to give up too much, which means I don't think Soto is the guy that needs to be here.
Well, Roddy said if you want to win a World Series, you have to go get Soto. Okay, so yeah, you go get Soto this year, and maybe you win a World Series because you have Soto and Goldschmidt and Arenado. But do you want to win one World Series, have a chance to win one World Series this year, and then not be able to build a team around those guys because you've traded all of your draft picks and all of your prospects, and you have no money to spend because you're paying Arenado and Soto and Goldschmidt a ton of money? So you win a World Series now, maybe, if you go get Soto, but then you don't have the ability to put a team around him for the next 20 years to win because you've given up everything? Or do you go with Arenado and Goldschmidt and you bring up Jordan Walker next year and you bring in Mason Wynn and you bring Nolan Gorman plays and Yepes plays and you have all this talent around you, and maybe you have a chance to win 2 or 3 World Series in the next 10 years? So you got to look at it that way. Is the possibility of maybe winning a World Series? Because I'm not sure that Juan Soto coming here, if you don't get pitching, makes you even the best team in the National League, because you still got to go up against the Mets pitching. You still have to go up against the Dodgers pitching. So I'm not sure that, even if you go get Soto, you're necessarily the favorite to win this year. And then, like I said, you're going to run into the aspect of the fact that you're not going to be able to build a team around him because Goldie's going to be gone in a couple of years. You'll still have Nolan, but, you're not going to have all of those other pieces that are, top 100 prospects. They're all going to be gone. And you're not going to have money to go bring in other guys around him because you're paying him $500 million and you're paying Arenado still $200 million, and you're going to have to pay pitching, so – and that's going to be, and like Wag said earlier, that's going to be the thing with all these teams that are thinking about going to get him. Yeah, the idea of going to get him is great, but how do you build a team around him? That's like I've seen a lot of people say, oh, the Dodgers will go do it or the Yankees are going to go do it. Well, if they do, like, look at the Yankees. The Yankees are having a contract discussions with Aaron Judge. They can't agree to a contract. So, you bring Soto in there, you add that to Stanton and Garrett Cole and everything else. Are they going to be willing to do that? Plus give up the prospects. Same thing with the Dodgers. The Dodgers, everybody says, oh, the Dodgers will do it. Well, you're already spending a ton of money on Mookie Betts. They're pitching Urias and Walker Buehler. Those guys are going to take a lot of money. They got to sign Corey Seager still. Not Corey Seager. Trey Turner. You've got all these other guys in LA. So I don't know that any of those teams are really going to be willing to go out there and do that.
Yeah, it's a lot. And you also have to sit there and go, yeah, he turned down $440 million from Washington. Who's to say that that's exactly what he's going to be looking at? I mean, if he gets traded to the Cardinals, he may sit there and go, look, I get to hit with Nolan Arenado, Paul Goldschmidt. I got a couple of young guys that maybe are still with the team that are around me. Maybe he doesn't need to sign for a large amount of money. It's still going to be a big contract. Don't get me wrong. I mean, it's still, the market still needs to be set. He's still going to set probably one of the highest contracts of all time. But maybe it's not a matter of him looking for 500. Maybe he gets the 400 and gets a chance to play with these guys. Because, yeah, you look at it and you go, holy crap, you put a Juan Soto in the middle of that lineup with the guys that can hit around him, get on base, put balls in play, all of that kind of stuff. And you get this 23-year-old that mashes right now. It looks amazing. But to your point, if you can't build a team around him after that, what are you going to do? So are you in the win now mode, or are you in the win over the course of time? And as we've seen with the Cardinals, it's always about winning over the course of time. It's not about the win now immediately. Let's get this World Series. There's a reason why they have the most World Series championships in the National League. It's because they have the longevity, the long-term plan. And yes, a lot of us are questioning the long-term plan that the Cardinals have over the last 5, 6, 7 years, but they still have winning records. They still compete for division titles and wild card spots. They still get into the playoffs. Yeah, they haven't won a World Series since 2011, but they're also still putting pieces together. They got a lot of young guys coming up, both on the pitching and offensive side of things. They drafted a couple more guys the last couple of days that could be up here in the majors very, very soon as well. And you're riding the coattails of, 3 veterans in Wainwright, Yachty, and Albert this year that are boosting things up, as well as Juan Soto into his final minute in his second round matchup against Albert. Albert up 15 home runs to 7 right now. And it's not so much that Soto's struggling and the pressure is on him in a sense, but maybe there is a bit there. He's going to get a minute of extra time, which is going to be very beneficial for him. But you look at it and you go, okay, are these guys kind of pulling off a little bit? Maybe trying to give Albert a little bit of that last hurrah kind of thing?
No, I don't think so. I mean, we see this happen in home run contests. So often the guy that wins it isn't the guy that you expect to win it. It's somebody that just happens to get hot. And like we said, Albert's been in a bunch of these, so he has the idea of what he's doing. So we'll see what happens. Soto's kind of on a roll right now, so we'll see how this plays out.
Yeah, I think that's about 13 now. So yeah, he's pretty much on his way. That might be 14. So he may get this tied up at least before the end. No, that's still 13. So let's see. So he's going to get a minute, and he's going to have to hit 3 home runs to beat Albert Pujols here in this second round matchup. And you could just kind of tell, watch him. He's like, okay, I got this. And Blues fan reacts, hey-oh, how's it going, man? It's been a while. We talked a little bit today, Mason and I. Yeah, this has been a fun derby, and I kind of want to go to what they've done to change things up a little bit here over the last couple of years. The timed rounds and things like that. Are you more of a fan of this, or are you more of a fan of the 10 outs and you're done?
I kind of like the old 10 outs and they're done. Just I don't know. The way they used to do it, me, I'm kind of a traditionalist. I kind of like old stuff sometimes with baseball, so still a fan of that way.
See, I'm more of a fan of this. I think, instead of guys just stepping out and, really trying to pick their battles, they are a bit under pressure. And we've actually seen some of the bigger home run totals since this has been initiated, which I think that is a little bit of a surprise to some people, because they aren't able to kind of pick and choose what they want to do. They almost have to consistently go up there and really they get themselves into a rhythm. I think if you, in the old format, you actually don't ever get into a rhythm because you're kind of backing in and out. So I think we're starting to see a little bit more higher home run totals because of the timing that goes on here as Soto's now into his minute of bonus time, hits his 14th. And we are getting closer and closer to the end of Albert's potential run in the home run derby. And Blues fans reacts, went to the Mariners game in Seattle last week. So you got a chance to see Julio Rodriguez last week. Not only that, but the amazing field they have up in Seattle as well. And Rodriguez is in the final, and he will be facing Juan Soto, it looks like, as he is getting ready to, walk it off here. He's got 16, so that's pretty much it. So Albert Pujols gets into the second round, hits 15 home runs, bested by Juan Soto in the second round in his bonus time. And I think it's kind of was expected, but we should have a very, very fun final here between Soto and Rodriguez. Hopefully, right, Scott?
Yeah, I think so. I
think we might be having some connectivity issues on both of our ends tonight, as it looks like Scott has had to bounce out for just a second. So we will continue on here on the Toasted Tavern as Juan Soto advances to the finals against Julio Rodriguez. We'll see that one coming up. Rodriguez has 2 30 home run rounds so far tonight. And Soto's kind of walked through the first round. Had a bit of a challenge there from Albert in the second. And we'll see what happens coming up here in the final round of the home run derby. As we said, Soto on the block, obviously turned down the big deal from the Nationals. Very, very likely going to be dealt at some point here before the deadline. and the Cardinals are one of the top suitors. Now, the Cardinals did finish off a bit strong. They had a tough stretch where they faced the Phillies a couple of times in series, the Braves, Dodgers, before wrapping up against the Reds. 50-44 at the All-Star break as Scott's able to get back in here. 50-44 at the All-Star break. They're a half game behind the Brewers for first place. And, they've been solid this year. 29-20 at home, 21-24 on the road. The one kicker for me, and the one that they're not really going to have to deal with so much in the second half because of their very, very weak second half schedule. They were 23-31 against teams that were above 500. Now, they only have 8 of their 22 series against teams that have winning records. That's Toronto, the Yankees, the Braves, the Dodgers, the Padres, and 3 series against the Brewers. But this team struggled against good teams. Now, they're going to have to go do something at the deadline, obviously, and that should only help them. But this team, Scott, has a lot of positives, but it seems like all the negatives come out when they're just playing good teams.
Yeah, their record against good teams is frustrating, because a lot of those games you look at, you go back and they should have won those games. The bullpen is blown. I can come up with at least 4 of those games that the bullpen's lost in the 9th inning. That they had leads that they've blown. And you look at the last couple of weeks, they played those that Braves series and the 2 Phillies and the Dodgers series with half of their team, basically. So, I mean, it's not like they got blown out by the good teams. They've been in most of those games for the most part. I think they get healthy. I think they can compete with the best teams in the league. We saw what they did with San Francisco and San Diego earlier in the year. We've seen what they've done with the Brewers. And, they really should have won 2 out of 3 from the Dodgers. I mean, you have a 6-0 lead. You can't blow that game. So, it's not like they're not good enough to be right there. I mean, they need to make a couple of moves at the deadline, like you said, to add some pitching. But I think this team does have the potential to be right there and be fighting those teams when you get into the postseason.
Yeah, and Rodney, why wouldn't you trade for Soto? They have one of the deepest farm systems in the league. Yes, they certainly do. And the thing of it is you have to look at it and you got to pick the right guys out of that farm system that you can deal without suffering later on in the future here. And that's what we talked about just a little while ago. It's just one of those things that you have to make the right choice in this, and you're essentially sacrificing the future for potentially just 2 years. So we'll see how that plays out. It's just kind of how it is. So plenty of stuff like that will be talked about here in the near future. And we're going to actually wrap things up here real quick, just because both of our internets are a little wonky tonight. It's been one of those days. It's been a Monday for sure. It's definitely been a Monday. Just a quick hit and a quick congratulations and shout out to the Holiday family. Jackson going number 1 overall to the Baltimore Orioles. So Matt and Leslie Holiday, congratulations. Jackson, congratulations as well. Good luck in Baltimore. And I'm not saying that sarcastically. I really do wish good luck to Baltimore and their fans, because Baltimore is essentially a former St. Louis team. So that's exactly what it is. So congratulations to the Orioles and to the Holiday family for Jackson going number 1 overall. But like I said, we're going to go ahead and we're going to take off because it is a Monday. We'll leave it at that. But we're going to be back later on this week to kind of get you set for the second half in the Major League Baseball season, as well as talk a little bit more about the Blues offseason plans, as well as other things going down. Football is very, very quickly approaching. It's only 8 weeks away from NFL, and a little bit less than that for college football. So we'll have a little bit more information on that as well. So Scott, final thoughts before we head out?
No, like you said, man, congratulations to the Holiday family. And, Baltimore's got a bright future. You look at what the Orioles are doing right now. They're a 500 ball club, and then you get a player like Jackson Holiday, who had maybe the best high school season of any kid we've seen in a really long time. So, there's definitely bright things on the horizon for the Orioles. And, congratulations to Albert Pujols tonight for making it to the second round and really putting up a good showing. And, yeah, hopefully we'll get back later on in the week. Our internet will get straightened out. Mine keeps freezing and stuff here, so as it just did.
Mine as well. So it's wonderful. Technology is the best thing in the entire world. But yeah, also like I said, big congratulations to Albert Pujols as well. Well done, got into the second round and pushed Juan Soto to his absolute limit. Don't forget to watch the All-Star game tomorrow. You got Paul Goldschmidt starting at first base. Ryan Helsley, Miles Michaelis will also very likely see some action as well. And like Scott said, we'll be back with you guys a little bit later this week. And we got some big stuff in store for the next couple of weeks as well. Some big-time guests we're getting lined up. So make sure you stick around for those announcements as soon as we have them. And we will see you guys later. Enjoy the final round of the Home Run Derby, Julio Rodriguez versus Juan Soto. And we'll be back with you guys later on this week.
Hey, it's U-Man here from Casey. For all your sports news, catch the Toasted Tavern with Scott Tobin and the Man Called Wags, weeknights at 9 p.m. You can follow Toasted Tavern on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube. Let's get toasted.